Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We would like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine's 2023 Thoroughbred Stakes program has more than $17 million in purses, including 39 graded stakes, 5 Grade 1 events, and 2 $1 million classics, the King's Plate and the Woodbine Mile. Woodbine, now through December, great racing north of the border. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Let me remind you, Preakness Syndicate next week. I believe there still may be some slots available. If you want to go to capitalotb.com, click on the promotions link, then look for the syndicate that right there. Look for that graphic right there. Click on that, and you'll get to the entry form. You can fill that out and have your chance to get on next week's syndicate team. $25. There'll be 40 people. That's $1,000. OTB is going to chip in another $500, so there'll be $1,500 to play for the syndicate team. And again, for $25, you get in for a reasonable amount of money on what will be a few big tickets on Preakness Day and the chance to knock it out of the park. So again, syndicate team entry form still open at this point. Do want to remind you that coming up next week here at the Racebook Preakness Day, going to be a lot of fun here at the clubhouse. There'll be 2 drawings. We're going to have a bankroll team. I'll be out in the front of the clubhouse here playing on behalf of the bankroll team. The team will get selected right around 1 or 2 o'clock. So show up and put your name in the hopper for the bankroll team. We'll select the team, and as I say, I'll be playing, and hopefully the bankroll balloons up nicely, and everybody splits up the winnings at the end of the day. So next Saturday here at the Racebook, the bankroll team, but then there's a second drawing. Put your name in the hat also for the Preakness bet, because at 4 o'clock next Saturday, we'll select 4 people, and they will each get a $50 Preakness bet. So that's going to be fun as well. Should be a great day and a lot of fun. Preakness Day here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, on this morning's show, as normally we do on a Sunday, we'll take a look back at some of the stakes action from yesterday. We'll do some of that with Bob Ehalt. Bob, of course, covering New York racing. You can find his work in the BloodHorse over on America's Best Racing, but he was in New York yesterday, covered the Man of War and the Peter Pan. We'll also take a look at the Run Happy here in this first segment, but we'll save those other 2 for when we talk to Bob. Bob also has had some kind of interesting articles in the BloodHorse over the week and a half or so. I might have mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when the news came out, but I'll let Bob talk about it a little more. He did a little profile on Jimmy Jerkins and his wild career change. Trainer Jimmy Jerkins, who I had the chance to talk to in the winner's circle after Wayburn won one of the undercard stakes down at the Florida Derby. He's headed to Saudi Arabia. He's going to be the private trainer for one of the royals over there, and had signed a contract for a couple of years. And we'll talk a little bit about that with Bob. As I say, he wrote a nice article on that. He also had an article on the opening of Monmouth and expansion of fixed odds wagering there, and so we'll hit on that also. So I have a little Bob Ehalt in a few minutes, and as has been usual since they've opened up in upstate New York, we'll be visited by Tony Calo to talk a little Finger Lakes tomorrow. A little preview of some of the Monday action Finger Lakes coming up probably about 10:45 or so. We'll jump in with Tony, but in the meantime, going to do some stakes recaps. One I didn't call for a replay for because the National Steeplechase Association website probably had the replay, but I wasn't 100% sure. It's not even probably. They have a really good website, so I'm sure you can go get the replay there. But yesterday it was the Grade 1 Iroquois down in Nashville. Our colleague Steve Bick was down there, spent a couple days down there with the radio show, and I saw he tweeted out some pictures. He and his wife Tina, who was done up with the red hat, looked very good. But it was the Grade 1 Iroquois and Snap Decision, who we're all familiar with, who certainly run very well in the past up at Saratoga. Snap Decision, the 9-year-old, I believe was going for the third Iroquois, but Snap Decision came up just a little short, and I had the chart here earlier from the National Steeplechase Association website. Scaramanga got the victory. Snap Decision runs second. So the venerable Snap Decision, trained by Jack Fisher, coming off of a seasonal debut win in the Temple Guathme, could do no better than second yesterday. Scaramanga, coming over from England, had raced most recently at Cheltenham and had run fourth. But again, the jumps are big over there in what would be the flat off season, the winter, and then of course Cheltenham puts the exclamation point on as we kind of kick off springtime. And Scaramanga, as I say, ran fourth in that stake over there, but comes over here and hangs up a Grade 1 victory on his foray across the pond. So again, yesterday in Nashville, the Grade 1 Iroquois, Scaramanga over Snap Decision. All right, down in New York yesterday, again, there were 3 stakes, and we'll talk about a couple of them with Bob in a little bit because he covered 2 of them for the BloodHorse, but I also wanted to toss in the Run Happy. This one, Grade 3 event, $175,000 up for grabs, 6 furlongs the trip. I went with Stage Left, talked about this one. Stage Left is the 5-horse in here who you can see it makes a little bit of a late run. It's just too late. I thought Stage Left ran pretty well late, but just was too far back early. The winner here will be Candyman Rocket, number 3, Twisted Ride second, and again, Stage Left third. And as I talked about this one, I should say the favorite, Baron, who I had down the 4 spot. The Baron was 5-2 on the morning line as the favorite, and went off 7-5 as the favorite. Baron winds up 5th. I was not enamored with Baron, coming in from Parks, Butch Reed trainee, who I didn't have any big arguments against overall, other than I just thought other horses were maybe a little more interesting, and that's the way it turned out. As I say, Baron disappoints, running 5th in the field of 6 as the 7-5 favorite. And I was interested on the final odds. We talked about in the handicappers report yesterday. Stage Left was the 6-1 outsider on the morning line. And I was curious what he would go off at, because he was coming off of a win in the King Leatherberry, a nice win with a good number down at Laurel. And I thought Stage Left would take a little more action, but no, he went up a point to 7-1. Now, he didn't wind up to be the outsider. Mr. Phil was longer. And in fact, the horse that ran second, Twisted Ride, was the longest price on the board at 9-1. But Stage Left, as I say, ran well, probably ran better than that 3rd place finish, got off a little slow as far back, and then had a little punch in the stretch, but wound up 3rd. I had him on top, and he wound up 3rd. So I can't brag on him too much. But the winner, Candyman Rocket, who I left out, and I debated. It was a fun, interesting race. And I debated about Candyman Rocket. On a best effort, he certainly belonged in the mix. The last couple, though, were maybe a little bit disappointing. Went over to try the Count Fleet at Oaklawn in the latest effort, owned by Frank Fletcher, and I believe Frank Fletcher is from that Oaklawn area. And so some of his better horses over the last few years, trained by Belmont, have wound up over at Oaklawn. After the race yesterday, Belmont said he kind of spit the bit in that Oaklawn race. He just didn't offer up anything. Belmont was hoping for a better performance yesterday and got it. The horse was a little rambunctious, he said, in the paddock, but when he got out on the track, he kind of settled down and ran very well. As you saw there, Junior Alvarado on board, Candyman Rocket, now 6 wins and 11 starts. So a talented runner. And as I say, I just thought, overall, on the numbers, he was maybe a little light for me, but that's not the way it worked out. He looked good yesterday, and I haven't seen it. Went to a couple of spots this morning to see if some buyers were out. I haven't seen. I'll check again the next commercial break and see, because sometimes as we get to mid-morning, they'll pop out there. But I'd be interested to see what he did run buyer-wise. But it was a nice performance from Candyman Rocket being a Belmont horse, I would have to think, we'll see him right up here at some point in one of the stakes races. But it was a nice win yesterday in the Run Happy. And as I say, we'll take a look at the other New York Stakes races when we're joined by Bob a little bit later on, just a few minutes. Churchill, the William Walker, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. I have to admit, I was kind of searching around, and I wound up with Private Creed, not with a lot of confidence. I had Private Creed on top. I had Gaslight Dancer underneath. Gaslight Dancer won the Palisades in the previous start at Keeneland. Private Creed ran 5th in that race. Private Creed's the number 7. Gaslight Dancer's the number 2. Neither of them are going to be up there as they get under the wire, because it will be number 5, No Nay Hudson, getting it done. 2 of a kind, the number 3 second, and then Gaslight Dancer does run 3rd. You can see Private Creed's there, the number 7, but it just doesn't offer anything in the last furlong or so. But it was No Nay Hudson, 10 to 1, getting it done for Wesley Ward. That one also had come out of the Palisades. Again, Gaslight Dancer had won. Private Creed had run 5th. This one had run 6th. So I guess deserving of the 10 to 1, given that, and those other couple of horses who finished in front of him in the race. But you got $23.54 on the victory there. James Graham in the saddle for Wesley Ward. No Nay Hudson. This was win number 2 in start number 7. So fairly lightly raced 3-year-old turf sprinter for Wesley Ward. This was only the second start of the season. Another one you would have to think will pop up to Saratoga. He was up there last year, ran 2nd in the Skidmore. And now, again, the seasonal debut was a little bit disappointing, but maybe needed that one. Looked good yesterday. So, again, another nice turf sprinter for WW. And we move on now to Monmouth. Their opening day stakes race was the Long Branch. 3-year-olds going 1 mile and 70. Slip Mahoney scratched from New York to elect to run, scratched from the Peter Pan and elected to run in the Long Branch. And Slip Mahoney, the number 1 horse, was the even money favorite. But it is How Great Is Nate getting it done. Nice ding-dong battle here. Awfully Cool, the number 6, and number 4, How Great Is Nate. Ding-dong it right to the wire. Chart margin winds up going to number 4, How Great Is Nate. 5 to 1, chart margins ahead. How Great Is Nate. This was career win number 5 and career start number 7. The other 2 finishes were off the board starts. One of them, however, the horse lost the rider, so you can kind of draw a line through that. Then tried the private terms down at Laurel and ran 4th there. Moved into a new barn and gets back on the winning beam on Saturday with How Great Is Nate getting it done in the Long Branch. We'll see what that one has in the future. Most of the wins in the career had been, all of the wins prior to yesterday had been sprinting. So a successful stretch out to the 2 turns. We'll see what they have in store for this one. Seems like a nice little 3-year-old potentially, at least kind of on the second string, or maybe if they elect to go back to sprinting, we'll see. I'm not. Once you get that 2-turn win, I don't know whether you're going back anytime soon. But Slip Mahoney disappoints, running 4th as the even money favorite for Al Gold and Brad Cox. So we'll see what they do with that one going forward as well. All right, we'll take a break. But before we do that, I do want to give you the Dark Horse Play of the Day. Our friends up at the Dark Horse Mercantile back on board with us. They were on board all summer last year up at Saratoga as we tossed out a Dark Horse Play of the Day every morning at Saratoga. And we're going to toss out some Dark Horse Plays of the Day on Saturdays and Sundays while Dark Horse is with us during the Triple Crown season. And I, once again, have to tout swinging by the Dark Horse Mercantile. Great merchandise up there, racing memorabilia, apparel, and down the street, their sister store, Impressions of Saratoga, great Saratoga-themed merchandise. And if you're up walking the the main street, Broadway, up in Saratoga. Stop by the Dark Horse Mercantile and Impressions. I guarantee you'll have a lot of fun. Spend a lot of time just looking around, and you'll probably wind up with a few things to take home as well. All right, today's Dark Horse play of the day, race number 5 at Belmont, State Bred Maiden 30s going 6. I'm going to put Tommy Gun on top. The number 5, not a super long price, but 7-2. And if that holds up, I think that's decent value given the connections in the scenario. This one was claimed last time down at Churchill, last time being last September, and comes back for Mike Maker, Michael Dubb, and Irod Ortiz. And you don't think they were going to claim in September and come back in May. But with this team, I'm not going to let this one get away again if we do get some value. And I think the 7-2 would be a fair price with this group. So the workouts seem okay. Potent team. We'll look for Tommy Gun to get it done in the 5th at Belmont. Dark Horse play today, Belmont. Race number 5, horse number 5, Tommy Gun. All right, we'll head to a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Bob Ehalt. We'll talk some of the New York Stakes action. And as I say, Bob's written about a couple other interesting subjects as well recently in the BloodHorse. So we'll hit on those also a little bit later on. Tony Calo with a Finger Lakes preview for tomorrow. All of that right after this. It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse. Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now. Welcome back to Racing Across America. Joined now by our friend Bob Ehalt. You can find his work in the BloodHorse over at America's Best Racing and beyond. Bob, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Seth. How are you today?
Very good. And I'll ask you just generally, I said at the top of the show, we're going to talk a couple of the New York Stakes because you were covering those yesterday. But I will ask, as a guy who covers New York racing for the BloodHorse, and that means you're at the track very often, what was it like to make the shift from, that long period over at Aqueduct and about a week ago, get over to Belmont Park?
Oh, it was so refreshing. Let's just say that. Aqueduct, I mean, I know a lot of people love it, but boy, Aqueduct certainly is a old racetrack. And, you just, because of the time frame when you're there, there's just a feeling it's winter, it's cold.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to get to Belmont. You see all the flowers, the sunshine. It really is like opening day at a Major League Baseball park. It just really kind of invigorates you. And I think it is going to be a little strange 3-4 years from now when, or more, when we only have the one track and we're at Belmont 10 months out of the year. So, what we're seeing on, say, Derby weekend when Belmont traditionally opens is what we're going to see gradually. So that's going to be a different experience. But for the next few years, at least, yeah, I think the opening of Belmont is just, it really invigorates you and says, yeah, come on, this is a fun time of year. We could put away the parka and we could have some fun.
And I think the season is definitely a major part of that, because just mentally in your head, you envision that Aqueduct paddock, which is where it is, that kind of handles the season. But then you envision the Belmont paddock, and as you say, flowers, trees, and it's just it's a different frame of mind as you get to springtime.
Yeah, it is, and especially the way Aqueduct now with the casino, things are different. I mean, I have memories. It was not a great park area, but there was a nice little park area at Aqueduct. Maybe when you go back into the 70s and 80s, there was a little bit more ground there, and they did have a meet in July. They had a meet actually before you went to Saratoga. They went to Belmont. They went to Aqueduct for a month. So you had a little bit of that summerish feeling at Aqueduct. They actually had to use the air conditioning and stuff. But, in more recent decades, it's basically been from October through April. So, you had that winterish feeling for sure.
And before we get to what we're going to discuss this morning, the New York racing and some of your BloodHorse articles, as it is the in-between week, I'll ask any thoughts on last week's Derby. Mage, to me, just being around the game and handicapping for as long, I probably have to change. It's the 21st century. I could not pull the trigger in that he was so lightly raced. I liked Angel of Empire. I thought he ran well. Two Phils ran his eyeballs out. But what were your thoughts on last week's Derby?
Well, I think it was one of those instances, I think, where you really had to revise everything at about 10 o'clock in the morning on Derby Day, almost as if, some of these years where a freak storm comes and you've got a sea of mud. I thought Mage had a decent chance, but what was stuck out in my mind was he had every opportunity to beat Forte in the Florida Derby. He got first run on him, and he couldn't hold him off. So that didn't really inspire much confidence in me that he's going to beat Forte again. He had tried him twice, lost to him. So I kind of discounted him. Now, when I went back and looked at the race without Forte, well, Mage's figure was pretty good with some of the others. So I did do some last-minute revisions adding Mage, but I wasn't big on two Phils off the synthetic race, which I guess I should have learned something from the previous year. But I think that was the part that I think it was hard to project Mage going forward over Forte, but without Forte in the race, I think Mage deserved a little bit more respect, and certainly it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the Preakness, where he's not really facing a stellar field. He's going to have every possible opportunity to bring a Triple Crown bid back to Belmont Park. I believe for the first time since we had Justified.
Yeah.
Back in 2018 when he did it. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be a lot of fun, certainly next week. And if Mage gets it done, that's always good news for New York racing and Belmont, and just a lot of fun for the horse racing world as well. So we'll see how it shakes out. All right, let's go to yesterday, because there was some nice stakes action down at Belmont yesterday. And as I say, you covered a couple of them for the BloodHorse. And let's kick things off with the Man of War, a result I was very happy with, because I went with the Venerable Red Knight. I thought the race two back in the McKnight was very good, and the second place finish in the Elkhorn I thought was okay, and I thought this was up in the step. And your recap article, and we'll watch the stretch run, and it will be number one, Red Knight, 9 years old, Irod Ortiz gets it done at 5-1. Soldier Rising runs second, Strong Tide runs third. The Appleby horse, 3-5, Warren Point, I was not totally enamored. I had him right underneath, but I didn't think he was facing a whole lot overseas. And he does wind up disappointing a little bit, running fifth at 3-5. But again, Red Knight, 9 years old, we're watching him come under the wire here, and he separates. He's a length and a half ahead. And it seems like in your article, the ownership folks were very happy to have this 9-year-old and throughout the career. And yesterday puts a grade 1 on the resume. It's just a wild story.
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel good for Tom Egan, the owner of Trinity Farm. I mean, he had one mare, and she turned out to produce a pretty good horse in Bacagon, who it wasn't real, who was a stakes winner, not a graded stakes winner, and then to produce Red Knight, who just really, I mean, 9 years old, he's going at 9, you get your first graded win. Grade 1 win, and you could maybe you could look at it a little differently if he kind of really just peaked. But I mean, this has been a good, consistent horse for like six racing seasons or so, and 6, 7, and he to work his way up the scale. I mean, I think this was his 4th graded stakes win. Shows that he's just not an overnight sensation. He's been good his whole career. He's still good. The shame in New York is this will be his last year. The rules say he can't race in New York at 10, though he can race in other jurisdictions. The owner was a little surprised. I'm not sure if the owner was aware of that, so I'm not sure what kind of plans they're going to have for the horse. But, I think it's just a great story that shows you there is a chance for the little guy to do well in the sport. Yeah, it's a long shot. Let's face it. There are a lot more people who don't have a Red Knight than one who does. But it does show you kind of when you dream in this game, sometimes the dreams can come true.
We should also note, you talk about the one mayor and 9 years, New York bred as well. So it's a nice little feather in the cap for the New York bred program also.
Yeah, no, it definitely shows. I think New York. Look, as someone who followed the game in the 1970s, you kind of were brought up with the idea of, well, they're just New York State bred. I really don't look at it that way anymore. I'm not surprised when they're winning grade 1s. I think if someone, I think when you talk to people who are maybe a little bit younger, there's not that, well, he's a New York bred. No, the New York breds are, they could turn out Derby winners. They could turn out grade 1 winners. I don't, I think you have to talk differently about the program, that it's as good as, all right, look, Kentucky is the best. There's no doubt about it. But after Kentucky, certainly I would match New York bred up with about anybody in the country. So I think it's just, it's just a reinforcement of what people should know and understand, especially when you look at how lucrative the program is for the owners and breeders.
Yeah, fun story all the way around. And with yesterday's purse, I'm guessing $1.75 million in the bank with 12 wins and 34 starts, and just a fun story yesterday. No question about it. With Red Knight getting it done in the Man of War. All right, let's move on to the Peter Pan 3-year-olds going 1 1/8 miles, 1 turn 1 1/8 miles down at Belmont, and interested kind of on your take here, because we're going to watch him. I like Bishop's Bay, and Bishop's Bay and Arcangelo have a duel, and kind of one goes past the other and goes past, and then at the wire, it is Arcangelo getting it done. The number 1 over number 9 Bishop's Bay. Bishop's Bay was the 9-5 favorite, but Arcangelo at 5-2 was the second choice. I had Dave Grenig on with me yesterday, and at 10-1 on the morning line, Dave said, take a look at Arcangelo as a price. And I was just kind of, I wasn't disagreeing with that at all. So I was kind of shocked at Arcangelo being the second shortest price on the board. But boy, the betting public was on board there, and Arcangelo gets it done. Henry Q with the interesting ownership group was one that I thought was intriguing at 9-1, and that one winds up running third. Mick Cronin, the UCLA coach, Rick Pitino in on that one. But again, a well-beaten third over 8 lengths back. But give us some of your thoughts on the Peter Pan.
Well, I thought it was a pretty entertaining race, that's for sure. You watched the race. Bishop's Bay, it looked like he had command at the top of the stretch. when Arcangelo came to him, Bishop's Bay re-rallied. It looked coming to the 16th pole like Bishop's Bay was going to, hold him, get himself clear and win the race. But Arcangelo came back at him and got up in those final strides. So it was I think a really good, entertaining race. Arcangelo, I think in the case here, he had a bit of a wide trip in his maiden win, which was a kind of fast number on the buyers, which doesn't take ground loss into consideration. So I think Arcangelo was looking better on some of the premium speed sheets that incorporate the ground loss, and I think that's where a lot of the money came from. I don't know, maybe the connections, they were raving about that workout. Javier Castellano liked the workout that he put in, the 59 and change to get ready. So there may have been a little buzz about him, but he certainly looks like, for a horse that just coming off a maiden win, he ran really well. You got to wonder if the connections didn't say they were going to the Belmont. They didn't say they weren't. They used the time-honored, well, we'll see where the horse takes us. So I don't know. I mean, I think he would be a contender for the Belmont because of that he showed he could handle the track. The distance seemed okay. I mean, he did have that added life in the final 70 yards that maybe Bishop's Bay did not have. So Belmont could be a possibility for him. I think certainly he's going to be I think he's certainly going to be one of those horses who'll be in the mix of the 3-year-old stakes. And, we'll see where he goes. And, Bishop's Bay, I thought he ran well. He might be a pretty effective horse for a race like the Haskell over a speed favoring track at Monmouth Park. I think that might be good for him. I'm sure. I don't know if he's certainly, I don't think a Belmont or maybe a 1.25 mile type horse, but I think, something like the Haskell, King's Bishop, I think he's definitely a contender to be a Grade 1 winner before the year is over.
Yeah, and it was also notable. Again, we talked earlier, little guys getting the horses reading your article. It sounds like the phone was ringing a little bit maybe after that maiden breaker for Arcangelo. They only paid $35,000 for the horse. And I'm always intrigued. I always kind of put myself in that place. And what would I do? Because the response was not for sale because we don't know when we'll get another one like this. But boy, that has to be a tough decision.
Well, I'm of the I've become of the position. You've got to answer the phone and work out something because I did a big article for the BloodHorse magazine talking about how as much as purses are up, the costs for the owners and traders have skyrocketed beyond that, and it is so tough to make a dollar in this game. When you have a horse like this, you know what? Take some of the money at least off the table. You could take that gamble. Maybe this horse is going to turn out to be worth a heck of a lot more, but sometimes getting a little bit of that money off the table is going to be big. Right now, he has two things going for him. He's an intriguing racing possibility. He's also a son of Arrogate who passed away, but really was after he passed away, his progeny really has taken off. So there's a lot of interest in Arrogate bloodlines. So I think these days, I think these days, unless you're really independently wealthy, you know what? Take some money off the table if you own 50%, or maybe if you want to keep racing interest, but work your deal out because say if he goes to the Belmont and he finishes 8th, and then that knocks him out. Well, your opportunity to cash in really well has really dissipated, and especially these days, they do have what they call kickers that you can turn out for a deal. Where you say, if the horse wins this, I get this. If he does this, I get that. So you can put in guarantees. Right now, you're in a little more commanding of a position because the horse seems to have a bright future and he has great bloodlines. So, personally, I would at least bring in a partner.
No, that sounds really good to me as well. As I say, in these situations in the past, I've always thought, what would I do? But that is, and you're right, that those kind of things have happened in the last few years as well. But that's a great solution. It's like, well, let me still hold on to a piece of the horse so I can go into the winner's circle, get my picture taken, still get a little money. If the horse goes on to the stud career, I get a little extra money, but I get a nice chunk up. So the guarantee, that's a very good point. All right, and speaking of expenses and how the game has changed as far as that. That ties into the piece you wrote, and I talked a little bit about it at the top of the show because I said I mentioned the Jimmy Jerkin story a couple of weeks ago, but hadn't really delved into it. So I'm glad you wrote the article, and I'll tell people to go read that as well. But I interviewed Jimmy Jerkins in the winner's circle right after Wayburn won. We were down there for Florida Derby Day, so after he won the stake on that card, I talked to Jimmy for a few. And then subsequently, I was surprised, probably as everybody else, and it sounds like some of Jim's friends and colleagues and owners were also, when he announced he's headed to Saudi Arabia. And fairly soon, within the next week or so, he's off for a couple of years. He signed a contract. You interviewed him for the article. Talk a little bit about the decision. And as I say, it sounds like it surprised a lot of people, and maybe even Jim himself to some extent.
Yeah, I don't think, Jimmy he shrugged it off at first when it was presented by Ron Anderson. Then he decided to give it some thought. And he went over there, and he wasn't turned off, but he wasn't like, okay, I've got to do this. And then he came back to face the reality of the situation. And as I say, the story that I wrote for BloodHorse shows the cost of operating a stable. You're in a situation now where some grooms are making like $1,000 a week that you have to pay. Your feed cost is going up. Everything is going up for a trader. For the owners, the same thing. They're looking at day rates of $120 a day at a minimum. Some of the other guys are charging more. Some other guys a little less, but they're all in that ballpark. I estimated in the story it takes. An owner needs to, in New York, probably make about $75,000 a year in earnings to kind of break even. So this shows you the situation. And for the traders, if you're not winning races because of the high minimum wage in New York, you really have to be a successful winning trader. And for Jimmy, he was looking around and he was finding it harder and harder to get horses. Because Jimmy really has never been a guy who's like winning 25% like that. And when you have some of these other guys, the claiming people and stuff, even who are winning at higher percentages, they're getting the better horses. Some of the people he's with, like Centennial, they really only have about 8 to 10 horses. He looked at the economics of it, and in a sense, you can't keep going. So then was it a question of, did he want to become a jockey's agent? Did he want to become a bloodstock agent or a racing manager? And he decided he didn't really want to do that. And so to stay doing what he loved best, which is trading horses, this was an opportunity where all of that is removed from the equation. You're like a private trader. You're being paid a certain amount. You're being paid a salary. You're being paid commissions. You really don't have to worry about the bookkeeping and making sure you're paying taxes and making sure you're paying people overtime. All of that is really no longer your concern. You can just focus on horses. So, it's a shame he had to go to Saudi Arabia to find that. But, I think the cultural differences, being away from the family, I think the fact that, for Jimmy, that he's just going to be able to go out, work with horses, I think in the end, it'll be a good situation for him.
Yeah, certainly rooting for him. He's one of the nice guys. Had him over a number of times to interview on the backstretch at Saratoga as well. Obviously, the Chief's son, Alan Jerkins, and so brought a lot of that knowledge to the game as well. And so we'll miss him over here, but we wish him the best over there. And yeah, it's just funny. I mean, that's the world we're in right now. Jimmy, a longtime trainer and a really good trainer, and he's had very good horses, but that's kind of the name of the game right now. So he's headed over to Saudi Arabia. Be interested to follow up on that in 6 months or so and see how things are going over there. And I get his wife heads over and a few weeks after he does, correct?
Yeah, I think I think more toward maybe September when she's involved with her job. Basically, will free her to be able to go. I believe in September.
Very good.
So then Shirley will be over there with him to make it better. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I think it tied into what I said about when you sell the horse. Racing really has to get its handle on these costs because, especially in New York, it's really becoming a killer to try to operate the game. And, there's got to be a little things. I do think some of these trainers, as high as the day rates are going to have to go up to help them. But I also think owners got to be a little bit more understanding of the situation. When you get an opportunity to cash in, do it. But you also have to, I think this idea of, quote unquote, protecting your horse by running it in races where it doesn't belong doesn't make sense anymore, because if you're paying $5,000 to $6,000 a month in training expenses to wait for a race that may not go, you may not win, that's how you're risking financial ruin in this game. I think, owners got to really, what they have to do is become a little bit more understanding of the finances, that you need to be in spots where you belong and run. And if you lose your horse via claim, you lose and move on, because the taxi bills, just sitting there waiting for your spot to win, they're exorbitant these days.
Yeah. And, we as players, handicappers, have our certain understanding of the game, but I know from knowing owners over the years, being an owner, there are a whole list of other things that, as you say, getting a race that your horse can run into the condition book and getting it set to go. That's a big concern. It's wild on the owner's side as well. Bob, just before we let you go, got a couple more minutes, but I also wanted to hit on one other thing, because Monmouth opened yesterday. You had a nice article kind of previewing the meet, but also talking a little bit about last year. Fixed odds came in at Monmouth, and it looks like they're kind of expanding the fixed odds wagering menu down at Monmouth this year. And how did they feel that went, and how are they expecting it to go?
Well, I mean, Monmouth, they were pleased. They certainly did not think they were going to revolutionize the game in year one. But, they had they had a promising enough debut. They are adding some more tracks. The key part is with the wager, some of the tracks, like the name tracks maybe that they're now adding, would be like Tampa Bay and Parks. They're still not they're still not the upper echelon tracks. And I will say, I enjoy my trips to Monmouth. It's a fun summer track. The people are nice there. The racing is good. And I really think, horse racing talks a lot about we have to do this, we have to do that. You know what? I give Monmouth tremendous credit for trying things. Dennis Drazen down there has tried things other people talk about and then don't follow up on. In New York, Dave O'Rourke's talked a long time about, I like fixed odds, I want it. Come on, bring it up, push the legislation, get it, get the legislation to go through, do it. It's really great. Everybody keeps saying, I hate when my horse is 3-1 as he's approaching the gate and he goes off at 8-5. Well, that's how you stop it with the fixed odds. Companies like Monmouth had worked out a very good deal with the company, Bet Makers. They really helped Monmouth. They built them a beautiful state-of-the-art tote board with, that's like a jumbo screen, like you might see at a baseball game. The boards you see at Dyra are an abomination. Now, I know there's a new track coming, so you're not going to build those anytime soon. But these companies are out there like Bet Makers that will work with the racetracks. If they give them access, I think you'll grow the game. You'll give people something. And you know what? Try it.
Yeah.
People, they don't want to take a chance. That's why I will have tremendous praise for Dennis Drazen. Maybe not everything he does works, but he tries it. You know what? Try things. Let's see. I think in New York, can you imagine in Saratoga being able to bet on some of these first-time starters a day before the race so that you don't have to watch the tote board go from 10-1 to 8-1 to 6-1 to 4? where you could lock in bets. I think the fans would love it. You probably, you won't get the 10-1 maybe morning line, but maybe you'll get 5-1 on a horse that might go off at 9-5. I think it's I think fixed odds is really something the industry has to embrace and try something. And just because if you just keep offering the same thing day in and day out as these new forms of wagering and sports betting and competition is coming, you're going to get left in the gate. And racing has historically let itself get left in the gate with television and other things. Embrace this. Monmouth is showing it can work. I'd love to see bigger tracks do it.
Yeah, and I agree totally with you. Applause to any of these entities that do try new things, and Monmouth is one of those. They were kind of in a shaky spot a couple of years ago and changed things up and did some innovative things. And so again, applause. A few years ago, going back, Frank Stronach with the crazy slot machine room down at Laurel that was based on horse racing wagers that eventually didn't catch on, but I applauded him for taking the shot. Try something new, see if it does catch. And as you say, Monmouth is doing it, and folks can read more about Monmouth and the fixed odds in your article in the BloodHorse, also the Jimmy Jerkins article, and much, much more. Bob, always appreciate the visit, and we will talk again.
All right, Seth. Look forward to seeing Saratoga or the Belmont.
If there's a Triple Crown, maybe we'll swing down to the Belmont. We'll see how that works out. But looking forward either way.
All right, take care, Seth. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Bob Ehalt. Again, you can find his work, BloodHorse, America's Best Racing, and more. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, it's our Finger Lakes Monday preview with Tony Calo. Stay tuned.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Tony Calo. Tony, good morning.
Morning, Seth. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
I had written that at the top of my rundown, and I didn't say it at the top of the show, so I'm glad you jumped in there with it. Yeah, absolutely. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And beautiful day here in the Capital District. I will ask, up in the further upstate area, the Rochester-ish area, has your weather, we've kind of turned the corner here in the Capital District. The last few days have been very, very nice. How's your weather out there?
Absolutely breathtaking. Can't beat it. It's very comfortable today. Got a little warm, I have to admit, the Thursday and Friday in the lower 80s. Isn't that funny? We're saying warm, but it felt great. Got the barbecue cleaned out. Got my first barbecue of the season. Cut the lawn. Did all the nice things you're supposed to do when the weather gets good.
Absolutely. Glad to hear it. And before we get to Little Finger Lakes action for tomorrow, we're in that in-between week. We talked with you last week about the results of the Derby. And I'm just curious. I've been asking people, and I don't remember if I asked you last week or not, but there was buzz on social media in the few days following about the Triple Crown schedule and expanding it or keeping it the same. And I've asked people in the last few days, and it seems like almost a split decision. And I can now go either way. I used to be a traditionalist, keep it where it is. But I get the arguments now for expanding and going a little bit later with the Preakness and a little bit later with the Belmont. You have any feeling one way or the other on the current Triple Crown schedule?
Either or. If they keep it the way it is, I'd be happy. I think if they were going to make changes, maybe the only changes I would like to see, possibly you make a month between each race, the way horses run this day and age. And, that I don't think that would be too much to ask. You'll get a lot of good horses that run every 6 to 8 weeks, but why not make the Triple Crown, once a month? You have a race in May, you have a race in June, and race in early July, and that wouldn't be such a bad thing. But if they were to keep it the way it is, I would like to see it. I'm happy either way. That's all I'm trying to say there.
No, I'm in the same boat. I used to be stuck on let's keep it where it is, but now I get the argument the other way. And yeah, in the 21st century, and Two Phils this year is the perfect example. He ran huge in the Derby, but he ran so huge they don't want to come back in 2 weeks. But yeah, you were a first week in June. I would expect Two Phils would come back. So I completely get the argument.
Same with maybe Angel of Empire.
Yeah.
Seth, it's funny. I was talking with a friend last night, and something I brought up on this show before. Back in the old days, we were talking about Spendebuck, my friend, yesterday, and how Spendebuck bucked the Preakness so he could go win the Jersey Derby and get the big bonus. Then Visa stepped up with the big $5 million bonus and the point system. I wouldn't mind if we could get something going back in that direction again. Maybe that would encourage more horses to run in all 3 legs. That'd be interesting to see if they ever brought that back. That might be, like I'm saying, maybe then we'd get Two Phils. Maybe we get Angel of Empire. Perhaps you get another horse or two out of the race to stick around.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. There was a big Triple Crown bonus, but as you say, there was also points, and whoever got the most points after the Belmont, there was a bonus there as well, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that implemented again. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I've kind of forgotten about that. That's interesting. All right, let's jump in. A little preview on the Finger Lakes. Oh, we should mention, doesn't this week kick off the 3 days a week?
Yeah, Seth, I got a bunch of good stuff for us. So this week, obviously, like Seth just mentioned, we will be racing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, and we have all 3 days filled, so that's a plus. Something new that we started last week, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but if you go to our fingerlakesgaming.com and you click on racing and you scroll down to digital programs, you can get free digital programs now on our website. They're already there for tomorrow. So fingerlakesgaming.com, click on the racing button, scroll down the digital program, and you can access them right there. And they should be out about 5:30 or so the day before each racing day, and Mondays will be out early. Mondays will be out like after Wednesday's cards. So pretty cool. Something new at this season. We're going to be in there, the nice Equibase programs with past performances and everything.
And I should mention over on our website, we've been getting the info from you guys. We're getting picks, full card picks that folks can go to our website and click on the tip sheets link and get those. And also there's a play of the day for each racing day from you guys as well. So I'll tout that over on our website also. But yeah, I saw the press release on the free PPs. That's very nice. Certainly people are going to enjoy that, and it makes playing Finger Lakes a little easier and more enjoyable for everybody. And great product there on Mondays and Tuesdays, and now Wednesdays. So and the Wednesdays goes until close to the end of the season, correct?
Yeah, hopefully we've got through our losing a card. We lost one card earlier this season, and hopefully now I'm looking at the work tab and I'm seeing a lot of horses that have not yet debuted yet. So hopefully we can stay positive, keep going, and at least be able to fill our Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. I know my paycheck would certainly appreciate it.
And I just pulled up, as you were talking, they're very easy to find the programs on the website, and nice little, you can print them up as well. It's labeled as a digital program, but it's a PDF file, so you can print it up as well. Take it with you if you're headed out. All right, Tony, let's get some ideas for Monday, and let's kick things off in race number 5. Bottom level conditional claimers going 5.5 in the 5th race. How'd you see it?
And we should note, Seth, that we do have our first pick six carry over the season. It's a small one, but we got to start somewhere. It's a shade under $1,200, and our pick six is now a traditional $1 pick six, and it pays 6 or 5. And if somebody hits 6, it will pay 5 also, and then it goes to 5 or 4 winners, obviously. But it's not a jackpot style; it's a dollar bet. So hey, maybe if somebody could get lucky tomorrow, we've been averaging about 3 or 4K in the pool, maybe with a little bit of a carryover. Maybe somebody gets lucky and they can pull 5,000 or 6,000 to their head. Might be difficult tomorrow, and we're going to start in the 5th race. This is probably the single on most people's tickets. The 9-horse Riding on a Winner. She did everything but win on the 2nd of May. She found herself a little further back than I would have anticipated. But granted, it was the abbreviated distance of 4.5 furlongs. So horses will tend to, especially when they've been running in 6 furlong races, they could find themselves a little further back. She's going to get 5.5 tomorrow. She should be into the race. I see speed along the inside with Strong Alpha, who she just defeated pretty easily. Smith Circular Gal could be somewhat forwardly positioned. One Journey, One Tick Lady. It shapes up beautifully. I'm very confused by the 3-1 morning line. Here's a filly who was 3-5 in a similar condition and did everything but win 13 days ago. So the 3-1 is very misleading. We're not even get anywhere close to that. But this one looks like a pretty good single for the pick six players.
Yeah, I almost wonder if that's a misprint because it was 3-5 last time. And you look, and you know as well as I do, I say it all the time on the handicapping show, bettors these days look so much at the buyer figures, and this horse just clearly has a buyer's edge on this bunch.
She ran some very good races last year. Look at her races in October and in November, her 3 races at Finger Lakes. Those are all good races against quality allowance condition type of fillies and mares. And obviously something just didn't pan out for her. Paul still had good aspirations for it at Aqueduct. He ran her for 25. It's not like he was trying to get rid of her, but he didn't run a jump. In fact, hasn't run a jump at all. She's where she belongs for 5. She looks way too captain obvious, but you got to find a single, and if you can get some long shots around her, then perhaps you can get paid a little bit.
All right, let's move on to race number 6. Again, calendar condition claimers going 3/4 of a mile. What did you see in race number 6?
Seth, it'd be nice if maybe you had me on a Saturday where I could talk some graded competition, but I got to do it. And I told Seth, everybody, before we came on air, if I do not pick a winner tomorrow, then Seth gets to pick the races next week because I think I'm in a slump. I don't think I've given out a winner yet all season, and it's like I'm not that bad of a handicapper, but sometimes trying to handicap 4.5 furlong races, $5,000 claimers,
you ain't kidding.
That's not really what I'm all about. But we got to do it here. All right, so this race is kind of how do you say it? I love Jackson's the horse to beat. There's no question about it. The horse has all the past class, just under 400K in earnings, 11 victories. Well, I don't know what happened to Jeff Englehart. Jeff hasn't been winning a lot of races. He only has 5 wins this year, 5%. His last victory was on the 14th of April at Charlestown. Now, he did have a horse run at Parks on the 10th of May. Steiner, who's a very nice claimer, who ran a very good second. So perhaps he's going to start getting back to the old numbers that we got used to with Jeff. But he's in a little bit of a trading slump. And the thing I find intriguing about this race is the lack of pace. There is absolutely no pace in this race from the one hole all the way to the outside. So I'm going to try to go with a little bit of an upset here. The 8 Town Jack at 3-1. I'm hoping I Love Jackson gets pounded down to 4-5, and we get 5-2 or 3-1 on Town Jack. I like the way Town Jack looked winning on the 25th of April. I know he got to sit a beautiful trip. Holy Cowboy and Smoking Alone really set it up for him. He was in the garden spot. But what impressed me the most about Town Jack was the way he got into the race. I watched this horse last year, and when he ran second to Macho Maya back in the middle of October of 22, he launched from 12 lengths out of it. It seemed like this horse had been closing from the clouds. Now, he did run a decent race against a horse that came back to win at Parks when he was up close to the pace in 7. what I'm getting at is I remember in my race call, this horse, I said he was into the race early. I don't see a lot of pace. Jeremiah Flores has known to be aggressive at times. Why not put this horse out on the front end? The runner-up came back to win. This is a horse who once upon a time had a lot of past class. I mean, he has hit the board 25 out of his 50 appearances. He's getting close to $200,000 in earnings. He used to rock and roll with starter allowance competition in Pennsylvania at Park. I think he fits. And if anybody can beat I Love Jackson, I think it's Town Jack. And I'd like to see him be aggressively placed on the front end and come and catch him if he can. He looked sharp winning. I'm going to come right back with him. And he did run a big second to conclude his Finger Lakes campaign to Bold Lee, who in my opinion is one of the better $5,000 claimers at Finger Lakes, if not in the country. Bold Lee's an absolute freak.
Yeah, he is what you'd call a lunch pail horse with the 25 in the money finishes and 50 starts. You got to like that. All right, the seventh race tomorrow. Allowance runners, C condition, 5 furlongs the distance. Your thoughts in race number 7? This is a nice race, race number 7.
This is a nice race. I'm glad you said it. There are some racehorses. Winston's Chance is near $500,000 in earnings.
Dr. Blarney.
Honor Among Men. Pardon me?
Dr. Blarney with 26 wins and 42 starts. You got to love that.
Dr. Blarney, I mean, he's a fan favorite, and they're going to bet Dr. Blarney. Honor Among Men's a horse who made a good impression here last year against a little lesser competition. Real nice horses. I love the 9 Flying Emperor. He's a racehorse. Now, I'm a little concerned that he's got a little bit of seconditis developing in his career. You know, he's 17 for 18, 1-2, 6 wins, 11 seconds. When he runs his race, he's a monster. Last year, he won our George Barker. The year before, he finished second in it. He won his comeback bid in 21. He won his comeback bid in 22. He ran second in his debut and won his second career start. He has 6 workouts, including a few at Tampa. He's got 4 at Tampa, 6 recorded workouts for the comeback. He's one of our better sprinters, 6-1 on the morning line. Boy, you got to like Flying Emperor. I'll give him a big-time look. They're going to bet Dr. Blarney. They might bet Honor Among Men. And this horse maybe slips under the radar. I'm not sure. He loves to fire fresh. He's just as good as anything we have on the ground. He's rock and rolled with Blarney, ladies golden guy. He's mixed it up with some of the big boys. Why not Flying Emperor? He loves to run fresh. 6-1 seems pretty generous, especially when you look at all of his odds and all of his respective races. The only time he was ever higher than this 6-1 was when he ran at Saratoga. All of his Finger Lakes races, it looks like he's 2-1 or less. So 6-1, probably not in that ballpark. But hey, I'll tell you what, give me 3-1, 7-2. I'd be very happy.
I like it, and I'm not sure that the value won't hold up because of the layoff. I think that others are in here with more recency. Jacobson has no more talk, and that horse, takes some action. I'd be interested to see, but I like it. And what I like is what you mentioned. I always love in these situations, if you can look back in a horse's past performances and they've won off the layoff before, that to me is a big positive for horses coming back like this.
You know, look at his comeback win in 22. He sits 4th through the early stages. He's got a nice outside post. Honor Among Men's very quick. Almendro is also very speedy. Rider's Regret is a horse that I touted on opening day and he disappointed. He's my little long shot. I'd have a little saver going with him, but I'm hoping that this Flying Emperor, like I said, he really likes to run fresh. And if we get anywhere near that price, you've got to take it, win, lose, or draw.
Like it. And again, that 7th is a nice race tomorrow. Tony, as always, appreciate the conversation. Enjoy the first 3-day week and the nice weather out the Rochester way. And we'll talk again next week.
Sounds good, Seth. Take care, buddy.
All right. Tony Calo from the Finger Lakes. And again, I will also talk, because I saw the press release. Go to their website. You can pull up the free PPs. That's always a big bonus. And don't forget, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday now, as they move to the 3-day race week out at the Finger Lakes. All right. I am going to wrap it up for this Sunday morning on Racing Across America. Don't forget, once again, Preakness Syndicate. And let me just see if I have gotten any word that the Preakness Syndicate is not. And I'm not seeing anything in my email box signaling that. So I assume that Syndicate entries are still available. Go to the website, capitalotb.com, click on the promotions link, look for the Syndicate graphic, click on that, and put your name in, and you get your shot to be on the Preakness Syndicate team next weekend, next Saturday. There's also, again, I will tout next Saturday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be out in front with a bankroll. There'll be a bankroll team selected during the day. Probably gets selected. It's usually in the 1 or 2 o'clock area. So show up a little before, put your name in the hat. We'll select the bankroll team. I'll be playing all afternoon long, and we split up amongst the team. Whatever the winnings are, hopefully I can balloon it up nicely. But there's a second drawing, a separate drawing. Put your name in the hat for a $50 Preakness bet next Saturday afternoon at about 4 o'clock here at the Racebook. We'll select 4 people to get a $50 each, get a $50 Preakness bet. So a couple of great opportunities to get a little extra something here at the Clubhouse Racebook next Saturday, Preakness Day, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, I'm Seth Merrow. This has been Racing Across America. We'll wrap it up. Appreciate your tuning in. Thanks to Tony Calo. Thanks to Bob Ehalt. Again, happy Mother's Day. Appreciate your tuning in. If you're a mom on this happy Mother's Day morning, and hope you have a great day, and maybe tune in a little bit later on. Maybe we'll make it an even better day by tossing out some good ideas on OTB Live, because we'll be back in about an hour and a half or so to kick off a Sunday afternoon of action here on the network. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. But again, we'll be back soon with OTB Live. We'll see you then. We would like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine's 2023 Thoroughbred Stakes program has more than $17 million in purses, including 39 graded stakes, 5 Grade 1 events, and 2 $1 million classics, the King's Plate and the Woodbine Mile. Woodbine, now through December, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.